Hello and welcome to All For United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Bit of a match reaction, fan forum show today. Joining me is Andy, Stu, Connor, Namrata, Atanu. How are we all doing, all right?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. This is what I like about the fan forums. There's so many of us. Go on, Stuart, sorry.
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Yeah, looking forward to it as usual.
Yeah, hello, Karen, in the comments. Yeah, I remember last week, Stu, was a real good one. So when you asked to come back on, I kind of jumped at the chance. So
thank you.
I don't know if it's a chance to redeem yourself or a chance to just carry on the momentum. I don't know, but either way you're there.
There'll be no redemption coming my way, old friend. No redemption.
Yeah, you can join us a lot.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to talk about the win from last night. Not thoroughly, we're doing a proper match reaction show tomorrow with Ben and Matt Saturday Night Live, but it's definitely something that we want to get into today. Andy, Connor, you made that journey there, so I want to talk to you a little bit about Fuso. I want to talk to you a bit about Skinner. I want to talk to you a bit about the pitch. I want to talk to you about Skinner after the game wearing the flag. Why is that created so much talk on Twitter?
He loves it. He loves it.
He does love it. Well, let's start off on that then. Hello to everybody in the comments. Vicky, Stuart, John, Stuart yourself. You caught me off guard there. You on the screen and you in the comments, Stu?
Oh, no.
You're busy. Excellent.
All these professionals, I can just do one thing at a time. I can't do that. So.
Okay, let's make a start then. Andy, you was at the game. You went up there with Connor. Talk to us a little bit about the journey going up first, because it's not a short journey, is it? And Connor will probably go into a bit more detail coming from the middle of England. But yeah, go on, Andy.
Yeah, poor Connor's seen so many hours of my face. The poor thing. He probably wants a break in a bit, to be honest. No, it was fantastic. I mean, you know, on and off screen, we are a great community, and obviously Connor was so kind to not only take Karen and Vic, saying they're in the comments, and myself up to Durham, which is not. It's not, which is not. We're just in the multitask comment there, which is not close. It's 135 miles from my house, so God knows what it is from Connor's. And we've discussed maybe on other shows as well about how welcoming Durham is as a team and as a sort of group of people. But no, the trip itself was great going up. We had a great chat together. It kind of just sort of psyched us up for the match. Not that we just didn't need much more psyched up than that, really. And we got there just before it opened, about 5:00, to listen to, well, basically somebody's private CD collection from about 2004. I think it was the music they were choosing. And then we were sort of like realizing that when we got in there that, you know, there's a running track and we were going to basically have to work out where to stand, because for a lot of the first half, to be honest, I think you guys in India got a better view than we did, because it was quite far down.
Andy, I know that you've referred to it a few times over the last couple of weeks about Durham in the past. How did this kind of visit compared to your previous visits at all?
Not mine personally, or no, it's yeah. I mean, it's a weird thing, to be honest, because I think as a group, when we first started, obviously in the championship, you know, we were going to see how we're going to get these rivalries, and we were a different fan. We had a different culture. We had proper football culture, and a lot of the rivalries are based on historical rivalries between the men's United, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, etc. And I think Connor was saying, and you'll probably go into this yourself, but like, obviously, why have we got a rivalry with Durham? Manchester's here, Durham's here. You know, there wasn't really a link to it. And the reason is because you can see it last night. You know, they were quite frosty when we got in. The steward made it very clear they didn't really want us to be there. They didn't let us put any flags up. They were only team, both in the WSL and the Championship, which didn't allow flags to go up. And basically, the players themselves, as you saw with some of the WWE style tackles that went on from Durham, you know, they don't like us, essentially. There's a niggle there. lots of little elbows in the backs. You know, I mean, some people say that's good when we're doing it because it shows that you're there and that kind of thing. But yeah, it wasn't a friendly atmosphere at all. And essentially, when the game finished, we relatively got out of there relatively quickly. And I may have sort of said bye Durham, you know, and just sort of waved in the general direction of these people,
yeah.
Which is fine. Or we used to say thanks for coming, didn't we? But there we go.
A lot amazing in the comments. I'll be feeling better and see you next Friday, definitely. Connor, you was there as well then. So obviously, if you want to touch on the journey, you can do. But also, not just necessarily your thoughts on the game just yet, because we'll get into that. But just like the whole atmosphere, or maybe like the lack of it a little bit, because the stadium and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the journey itself, it's long. I mean, to put it into context for people that might not know, so it took 6 hours 20 odd to get there, and then about 5 hours 40 to get back. So it was about 12 hours driving for me yesterday. So spent much more time in the car yesterday than I did actually out of it.
With me, you lucky boy.
Exactly, with Andy as my passenger and then Vixen and Karen as well. But to be honest, the journey didn't feel that long because of the people that we've already touched on this that we had, going up together. So that was good. The game itself, it's hard, and I've said this to you, John, to generate an atmosphere when there's only about, let's say, 40 of us at most. I'm talking United fans as a whole, and probably only 20 of us that really sing at games, and we're outside. So it's hard to generate any kind of atmosphere anyway. So I think that's why it probably wasn't picked up by other people. We tried, but it's like I said, when there's only 15, 20 of you that actually chant. We're not the loudest anyway, the people that were there. And you're outside, surrounded, in open space. It was difficult. So yeah, I agree with what Andy was saying. They weren't welcoming us, so they didn't want us there. They made that very clear that they didn't want us there, and I don't think I've ever really felt that at any place I've been to before. And I've been to some big games in the men's side of things before. So it was a bit weird, to be honest. And I think I saw Vix's comment earlier. We couldn't see half of the game anyway because Mark Skinner was stood in the way. I did shout at him at one point, telling him to step back so we can actually see what's going on down the thing. But it was that kind of game, like school. I compared it when we got there to like American football, like the way that I was half expecting cheerleaders to come out. To be honest, it was that kind of atmosphere. You had some radio DJ going, "Come on, Durham, I can't hear you," and all this kind of thing.
Under the lights.
Oh yeah, under the lights at Durham. He said that about 7 times, but in different ways. And it was that kind of. I didn't know whether it was a pantomime or a pop concert. It was very strange. So yeah, I'm glad. Obviously, we went. I don't want to miss a single game this season, but it was just a strange old atmosphere. I don't think I've ever, and I don't think I want to experience something like that again.
And just to finish up on that, kind of what you just said there, you don't want to miss a single game this season. Bearing in mind, this is the first season that you've actually started to attend women's games, women's football. And so you've gone from one extreme to the other. And Stuart, I know that you're up there as well. Keep on coming back. So I'm sure I'll see you at a game in November, which actually brings me on to Namrata's topic. So we'll start off the fans forum with yourself then, Namrata. What is it that you would like to talk about?
So what I want to talk about is November fixtures. So right off the international break, we face, I think, Spurs and Everton away. So those two are must-win matches for us. But I'm more interested in the last 2 matches in November, which is, I think, we face Man City at home in Conti Cup. And I did some math after the Durham game. And essentially, if we lose to Man City, we are out of the Conti Cup, because I think only the top team in each group qualifies, and one second place team which has the best points and all that thing. So if we lose to them, we're out of it. But 2.5 days later, we face Arsenal in the league, and they're in red hot form right now. So we might go all out against them, but still not end up getting any points. So my topic would be, if you were Mark Skinner and you could choose between one of these matches, would you go for the Conti Cup, or would you put your best team against Arsenal?
I'll quickly jump in because I've only got a very quick point to make on this. I think he's got to go full out in all of them. But I will say, this sounds really bad as a United fan. We're not going to beat Arsenal, unfortunately. We're just not. I can see us nicking a draw, but they are so good this season, and we're just not at that level. They just are better than us. We might be able to nick something on the day, potentially, if things go our way and things like that. And we do have a good... I'm not playing us down in terms of, we're not an awful side. We're not. But when you look at Arsenal this season, they're not just beating teams, they are smashing teams. And I think we just are not there yet, which is fine because they're far down the project. They're much further down the line than we are. So I would just say I think we've got to go full out. The first two for me are most important because if we want to get top three, like I keep saying, we're 6 ahead of City, so we've got that gap anyway. Even if City beat us in the reverse fixture, we've still got a gap to them. But Tottenham and Everton are two teams that, especially Tottenham, are kind of in and around that top three. So if we go to Spurs and lose, Spurs have then got that gap on us, and we don't want to be falling away from those kind of teams. So I would probably go, I'd go all out in all of them. I think he's got the kind of squad to do it, but that Spurs game is the most important. If you were to pick a fixture out of all of them, we want to beat City. It's a derby game, but that Spurs away, especially because it's right after internationals, we need to come out firing against that, and hopefully that sets us up for a run of games. Then,
Tanya, on that, Connor just says that we've got the squad to do that. I don't know if we have got the squad to do that. I think we've got the definitely got the midfield and goalkeepers to do that, and we probably wouldn't change the goalkeeper. Maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't. But I don't know if we have got a big enough squad. If you had to kind of choose to rest your players in a certain game, like Namrat has kind of just hinted towards, how would you kind of approach this now?
I think a silverware is important, and I think we'll focus more on the Conti Cup. That's what I think. I think again, like Connor said, it's difficult to beat Arsenal in the form they've been. They have the better squad. They have the better squad depth. So I don't think we have a chance of getting the 3 points. Maybe we'll nick a point or two. Maybe we'll nick a draw or a win, but I don't think so. So I think we'll go with the focus on Arsenal and the focus of being on City. And I think key players will play against City. We'll see Sophie Bagley play in the Conti Cup. Marry-ups in the Arsenal game, but other than that, I don't think we'll focus more on the Arsenal game.
Yeah, I'm torn with this one because, as you guys know, it's my first foray into watching women's football. I've actually been to 3 live games as well, and I will be at the Arsenal match, John, in answer to your question. My biggest fear is I don't think we're fit enough. As a team, as a first 11, we're not fit enough, and that's what I've noticed, amongst other things, when we've been playing. Now, obviously, we're kind of still early-ish into the season, but I tend to agree with Connor. I think Spurs away is going to be quite critical. I actually do believe that will shape our season moving forward. And one thing Skinner's got to do, in my humble opinion, he's got to give some relief to the midfield. And I think bringing in Ladd, is it Cheryl Ladd? Hayley Ladd, sorry, Hayley Ladd. Yeah. Where did I get Cheryl Ladd from? Was she an 80s actress, quite looking blonde? I think I might have got it from there. No, sorry. I think he needs to bring Hayley Ladd in. I think we need a proper holding midfielder, and it will mean either sacrificing Groningen or Zellum. And I know which one I would sacrifice. That would be Groningen over Zellum at the minute, because I think Zellum offers us slightly more. I know that goes against the grain of the hardened fans, and I accept that. But it's from what I've seen, with a holding midfielder, Zellum would flourish more. And I think that's what he's got to do moving forward. And I think that will give us a much better balance, because I don't think we're balanced at the minute with Groningen and Zellum in there, especially with issues we've got on the wings. But I agree with Connor. I think we've got to go. We've got to beat Spurs away, and it will shape us moving forward. Am I getting grief already?
I think, to be honest, it's 2 questions, isn't it? What should we focus on, or what do you think he's actually going to do? I think that's kind of the thing. I mean, I think it's important that we get silverware. It'd be nice. But if you look at his decision last night, and I know we might touch on that with relation to positives later, but we didn't really rotate. We rotated a bit, but then we ended up putting most of our first team on, apart from Honor. So how much scope have we got there to rotate? I think naturally he will play his best. He will focus on Arsenal. And to be honest, I probably would do the same.
I'll say one more thing. Chelsea, Man City face Chelsea, I think 3 or 4 days before their match with us.
Yeah, and it depends how many of them are left as well with other injuries that have got and what happened since and all this kind of business. But I mean, I think he's gonna play the league. I don't think. See, I used to have a great line, which was we never get smashed by these big teams, but then Chelsea happened this year because you look at we played Arsenal first when we were in the Championship in the cup game. In the first season, and we were solidly a championship squad. You could argue there was no real WSL level players there. Maybe one or two. Leah was there, obviously, and that definitely would have been in a WSL team at that point. And they only beat us very narrowly. So we have got the ability to do that if he's got enough of a run up in relation to the game. But I think we're going to have to try and go all out for third place. But the fan in me obviously wants us to get silverware as well. But as I say, I actually came out quite positive last night from a lot of performances from some of those squad players. Just touching on what Stu was saying, we've definitely got a midfield issue. We're definitely making various compromises, shall we say, in relation to what we're going to do there. And I think fundamentally, Groningen is a much better player than Katie Zellen from a consistency standpoint, from a does she look like she belongs on the pitch standpoint, and from a technical aspect. But when she has a bad game, can she have a worse game than Zellen? Sometimes, yeah. But I think there's always obviously that captain issue there as well, which keeps Mark from making these trade-offs. So it is a difficult one.
No, Mark, I'll finish for yourself, but if I just have Mark quick say on this as well. Skinner's in an awkward position because we've been saying we need to play squad players or we need to play devs in the Conti Cup, but it just so happens that the Conti Cup we're against one of the best teams in the league, Man City. So on this debate, does Skinner think to himself, what, we're against a very tough team, so we need to play our best players, or does he stick with what the fans and the club have done so far in the last 3.5 years? Use the Conti Cup as a chance to play these fringe players or squad players, whatever you want to call them. I personally always stick to my guns because you're not going to get a chance to play some of these. Martha Harris probably won't play unless if someone's injured. Kirsty Smith probably won't play unless if anyone gets injured. Bagley, we was all hoping that, well, I don't think anyone actually thought Solskjaer was going to play last night, but we did think maybe Maria Edwards would make an appearance. Fuso, we'll talk about a bit about Fuso as well shortly. These players I don't see getting into the first 11 in any other game. So we kind of got to stick to that. So just because we're against Man City, in my opinion, let's kind of just play those players. Else they're never going to play, are they? So yeah, we might get battered and that might not go down well, but at least I can understand the reason behind it. That's if you had to choose one or the other.
Well, you just to jump in quickly before other people jump in as well. Again, sorry, we're assuming that City are not going to do the same. They might rotate.
They might for the same reason. You know what City like with their depths. Maybe not.
Yeah, well, they'll probably give them a new name. They'll just call them like Team 1A or something to get around it, and just something like that. But yeah, go on, Stu.
I just wanted to touch on your Jackie Groen and Katie. I actually agree with you about technically. I think Jackie is a better player. I did say to Connor after my first game, didn't I, Connor, at Reading? When she came on, I thought she was excellent technically, but I thought she rushed. I thought her brain moved a lot far quicker than her feet. Not being nasty about that. That's how I felt. And I see Katie as a bit more controlled, a bit more calmer in possession. And I think that's what we need on occasions. Certainly against City, I think if Hayley had played more of the game, because I've only seen her for that 20 minutes that she came on. She looks quite a tenacious player. She looks like she's willing to run the back four quite nicely, hold the ball and spill it. I think that then plays into a more calmer midfielder. We're crying out for it actually in the men's team, believe it or not. We've got a very, very similar issue. Connor's smiling because he knows we've got a very similar problem in the middle of the park where we just got bulls in china shops. And that's why I thought the lad and Zellen partnership would be better. It's the only real difference that I see. But I agree. I think Jackie's technically better. She just thinks too quick.
Yeah, it's a decision making for Zellen as well. She sometimes makes the wrong decision and does the no hope pass or the
She'll try, yeah. I did notice that. I did on a couple of occasions against City, and I noticed what I like about that though is the try. I like people to try that. But I understand what you're saying, and I'm not arguing against or for. That's how I just see it, you see. So I probably didn't make myself clear last week.
Oh, we all love you. Don't worry. Don't worry. You'll be fine.
No, Martin, we'll just finish on yourself. Now, Martin, so I mean, how would you kind of go into it? Because I think because we've got so many good players, especially in the midfield, and we've got two very good goalkeepers, it's nice to see Fuso getting on the score sheet. No matter what the team Skinner puts out, there'll be a certain percentage of the fan base, whether it be 90% of the fan base or just 20-30% of the fan base who's going to disagree with his team selection. Even if he wins, people will still say he should have done something differently. Just wondering, like, how would you go about it then if you were Skinner? How would you go into that first game with Man City? Would you rest the players ready for Arsenal, or would you just go full strength and then take your best players who are fit against Arsenal?
I think we'll play our first choice defense because we don't have a lot of options. We also don't have a lot of options in terms of forwards, so we'll probably play our first choice forwards as well. I just think that we're going to see our second choice midfield versus City, and I think we're gonna have our best starting 11 for Arsenal. And I think that's something that I would like as well because we haven't really done well in Conti Cup in the last couple of seasons as well. But I think I really think that we need to strengthen in January. So if we're looking for a cup competition, we should probably look at the FA Cup, which starts after the January transfer window, and maybe we can add a couple of players. So I would definitely go against Arsenal, full strength.
Yeah, sounds good. I think with the league game, you just have to.
Yeah.
Andy, what's your topic today, mate?
Well, for once, I'm sure you'll be surprised by that. I actually was a positive one after last night. I actually felt quite positive straight away. Normally, it takes a while for me to get there. I mean, when we first, obviously, my topic really is sort of positives to come from Durham. I think, you know, it was weird. Like when I was watching the game, and I know some people might disagree on this because I've not got the technical knowledge of some people on here, but like it kind of looked like, you know, like when you tell a kid to stop playing with their food. Like we looked pretty comfortable at the beginning of the match, and then they knock the drink over, and you go, "So, told you," and that's kind of what happened. You know, we were almost quite comfortable for a lot of the match. You know, and then obviously we let Durham have some silly sort of issues, really. But I would say positives, and the big one that jumped out to me is penalties. We've not really had to have penalties. We've done it once in the Conti Cup when it was a bit of a dead rubber against City, I believe, and possibly once in the FA Cup. But what I found that was really interesting was the fact that, you know, we could hear Skinner. We were that close. He didn't go around with a notepad. Everybody knew he was taking penalties already. He didn't ask anybody. He was already aware. And I like the fact that we had a striker on the fifth penalty. The amount of teams that pick a random defender who scored about 400 years ago to go on the fifth penalty and get surprised when they miss. You know, it's ridiculous. It's almost like a British rite of passage. You think of the men's game for Stu and Connor, like David Batty back in the day, you know, Gareth Southgate. It's just a bit random. And they'll put like your striker on the first kick. But by having Russo on the fifth kick, which I'm hoping is more of a technique rather than just a thing for that game, that gave me a lot more confidence. If I sort of visually went to, probably to get out of Durham, to be honest, I mentally went to, like, maybe, as Namrata was saying, maybe February, March, we're in an FA Cup, it goes to penalties. All right, actually, maybe we've got a chance because we actually selected the right players. I think it was very positive that that Bagley saved the penalty, even though the ref, who was clearly on commission for Durham, decided that you know, that she didn't blow a whistle or whatever rubbish reason, you know, to sort of not give it. But I think that was the first positive I saw, because that gives me confidence going into cup games again, because I was really impressed that we had a striker on the fifth kick, which is really rare in the English game to do it that way round. Fuso was great. We might touch in more detail, but the first thing that I noticed was, I think Connor pointed out, to be fair, it was like she was going at 1.5 speed. She was like a lot faster when she made that run. Obviously, she got her first goal as well. And I think to be honest, Bagley has shown that she's quite close to Mary, but she's not maybe as close as I thought, but still good to know as a number 2 in case it dropped down. And I think, to be honest, the main positive as well that I found was I normally get a name right. I go for Mannion because I have to have a run up on her first name sometimes. Adofi Mannion, because she was a captain. You know, she got in the ref's face. Zone doesn't do that. She essentially got put in a headlock at one point, and the ref didn't give anything, and she was fuming. But she was a proper leader. So if I want to be charitable, she's definitely a solid vice captain. It's good to know you've got 2 solid leaders. If I want to be uncharitable, you know, there could be a possible opportunity there in relation to the captain. But yeah, I just want to know, I know, as you say, John was saying, we'll go into more details for the match reaction guys, we'll go into more details tomorrow. But what positives can you see from last night, really?
I know you want to jump in on this one. I've got this comment on screen from Lizzie, so I've deliberately not mentioned this. We'll talk about this on tomorrow's show, on the Better Match show. But yeah, we did win a nice little award last night. So me and Natalie did miss the match. We ended up going to London, but we will mention it because I know it's been all over Twitter. So thank you, Lizzie and Natalie, if you're watching in the pub. I hope you're celebrating because you thoroughly deserve it. And there is this one comment here. Thank you for joining the show, mate. Just very quickly, what advice would anyone give to Connor, Ollie's daughter, at this stage? I think there was a lot of hype. It was Kathleen Batty, who's been on the show before. She was a journalist, and she put out an article just before the squad was kind of released, read about it in the afternoon, saying that Ollie's daughter could actually make her debut today. And I don't know what she was actually basing that one on. I haven't spoken to her about it personally, but I see that as just as a fact. She's a dev player, and she's doing so well. She scored 4 goals in one of her previous matches. She's doing really well. But for me, there's such a step up from devs in the women's game to chasing a team that's going for titles, you know, or championships or Champions Leagues or cups or something. So for me, that's a massive step. So for me, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing, get a bit of time with the senior team, training, go on loan, get some senior team like in the championship, and then think about coming to United's first team, because there's absolutely no rush to jump into our senior team just yet. Maria Edwards done that in the last couple of seasons, and she's flourished. She's done so well at Blackburn last season. She trained with us a little bit in the season before that. So for me, just lay off Connor for the time being. Let her keep on succeeding, and she'll get there. Connor, do you want to jump in on that one, mate?
Yeah, I can do. I can quickly back up what you were just saying, though. I've seen a comment there from Stephen about Carrie did all right. I actually don't think she was as impressive as people were making out. If I know this is about positive, so I'm only going to make this brief. I think she did what she needed to in terms of, I think if you're a younger player coming through, when you're first given a chance, you're going to be like a Duracell bunny. You're going to be running after everything, really trying to prove a point that, you kind of can do that. And I think she did that well. She obviously got the assist for the first goal, but I don't think she was... I saw a lot of people afterwards going, "Oh, she's incredible. Let's get her. Starting. Rotating in games and all this." There's still a big gap between our starting 11 and kind of what you'd class as your rotation, especially in defence and attack. Midfield, obviously, there's a lot of options there. In terms of positives, now I mentioned it on my fan cam earlier. Maria, and I know Stu is a massive fan of Maria, and yesterday she was the one player that, and this sounds really strange considering we conceded 2 goals, but the 2 centre-backs were actually my 2 players of the match, obviously apart from Ella, which I'm now will get onto it a bit later on, so I'm not going to go into it at the minute. But Maria really stepped up, because Durham are a massive, in terms of player stature, they're a lot taller than us, a lot bigger than us, and a lot more physical than us. Now, Maria really had to step up, because that back 4 that we had, Hannah, Mannion, and Martha Harris, are all small players, not very physical. So Maria had to be, and Ladd actually, which I'll get to in a minute, had to be that kind of rock at the back, going up for headers. I know we conceded from a corner, which wasn't ideal, but going up for the headers, making sure, commanding the back 4, getting into tackles. We know that they're all composed on the ball. We saw that again. So I just wanted to shout out those 2, and also Hayley Ladd as well. I agree with what Stu was saying earlier. She was brilliant yesterday. You can see it on the second goal for Toon's goal. She's the one breaking up the play, really pushing players off the ball. And we need that in midfield. I've said for weeks that we're too soft sometimes. We need a player that can just get stuck in, win the ball back. Because I didn't feel like Bo Risa was really getting stuck in. I don't know whether she was. And to be fair, this will go on to my talk a bit later, but I don't know whether she was scared of picking up injuries. There's a lot of players backing out of tackles more than we usually do yesterday. I don't know whether that was because of the pitch or whatever. But Hey Lad was just everywhere, getting involved in it. And she's actually got a really good pass on her as well. There's a lot of time switching the play and all these kind of things. So there was a few positives. I don't think there was loads, but like I said on my fan cam, it was a rotated side on an awful pitch against a really physical team that we haven't faced yet. Like, we haven't faced that kind of challenge yet. So the positives are, like I said, we didn't lose. We probably should have won in 90. Obviously, it was a good free kick towards the end. And obviously Fuso as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well. She's just lightning quick. I couldn't believe how quick she is. That one run she went on in the first half, I think, skipped past 4 or 5 players and then just took it a bit too far wide and the play kind of ran out. But I think the main positive for me is that we came away, and this sounds really weird, right? So the main positive is that we didn't get any major injuries. Ivana Fuso obviously went down. It didn't look too bad at the end. She did kind of walk past us at the end, so at least she was walking. So obviously, don't know how long she's going to be out for, but we didn't come away with any major injuries. I think that's a big plus, because I was really worried when he started bringing Galton on. Obviously, Russo played 90. That was a worry with her kind of injury past and the way that, like I said, Andy said earlier, Durham were kicking play. Like, some of it's good in the game. I actually want us to do a bit more, but Durham were taking it a bit too far. Like Andy was saying, like headlocks, throwing players to the floor, kicking down the back of the. It was awful at times. So the fact that Russo managed 90 minutes, I think that's a positive. You know, good for her, kind of getting her match fitness up, and none of the other players got, big injuries, because that was a worry as the game progressed with the way that they were playing.
Stu, I want to bring you in for 2 reasons. You've probably seen it in the comments. I do want you to talk a little bit about a positive from either the game last night or the positive that you've seen so far this season, just to carry on Andy's point. But I want to bring this one up first. You've studied the game quite a little bit on the games that you've been to. You speak highly of Maria. Do you just want to kind of defend that point?
Yeah. Obviously, I know John Fry's a friend of the show, and I think he's appeared a couple of times, isn't he? And I've got a lot of time and a lot of respect for anyone who's got their opinions. But I'm not quite sure what he's not seeing about Maria in my eyes. From what I've seen for 3 games, is she's been very dominant. What she does, she's really good in the air. She anticipates. Now, I don't know what she was like last season, so I can only judge on what I've seen. But I think her play anticipation has been excellent. I think her and Mannion do complement each other. I actually think Maria is the better player than Mannion, but they are 2 different types of players, and you have to have polar opposites when you've got centre halves. I think she's good in the air, Maria, and I think she shows a calmness at the back. Mannion shows a calmness at the back as well, but I've not seen anything to suggest that Maria isn't the central defender that I know she is. And I'm speaking from somebody who's played that position for a good many years, so I kind of understand that position. Now, speaking to Connor and yourself and Nat and Benny, Maria had her issues last season, cost us a few goals from what I can understand. This season, I don't see it. I see a strong, I'm not going to say leader, because I don't think she is, but I see a strong, very, very comfortable centre half. So, again, I'm sure Dry. There he goes. He's chirping now, John. Well, if you play, so what I'll say to John is, if you played centre half, mate, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't agree with me, tell me why. Tell me what you think is wrong with her game, and then we can have a debate on that. But that's what happens, you see. People will give an opinion, but they won't back it up. So, John, back it up, please. Positives-wise, what I like, there's 2 things. What I would say about the Durham game, from what I saw about it, I like a bit of shithousery, by the way, Andy. Won't surprise you, but I like the off-the-ball pulling.
No, it appeals to me as well, but it was just the penalties as well that were so strange.
Yeah, I absolutely love stuff like that. I'm not saying that's how the game should be played, but a lot of the times you win a game of football is by being a little bit kind of nasty, off the ball, that type of thing. What you're trying to do is not hurt anyone. You're trying to disrupt the flow of the game, and that's so I like a bit about that. Positives, though, I've seen a lot of positives from the teams what I play. I was really surprised just how good the football is and how technical these players are. I said to John before I went to Reading, I was afraid they wouldn't have the strength in their legs, to get the ball high up the pitch. I'm not being derogatory in any. I was just making an opinion, but I think their skill sets and their technique is far better than what I thought. I've been really impressed with all teams I've watched: Reading, City. Who else have I seen? Chelsea. I've been impressed with all the teams that I've watched. So yeah, it's brilliant. I'm really getting into it and liking it.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Stu. I do want to get Marta and Atanu's points. And sorry if I'm disappearing. My internet has just slowed up a little bit. Now, Marta, we'll go quickly because we've still got a few more points to talk about. But a positive from either the game yesterday or from what you've seen this season. And then Atanu, you do the same, mate.
I think I kind of disagree with Connor a little bit about Carrie Jones. I think what I saw from her is that she was actually a quite improved player from last season. I think last season, the last game we had versus Everton, I think Leicester or Everton, I kind of forgot. But she gave that free kick away, which led to the goal, which finally made us drop out of FA Cup. And I remember at the end of the match, she was in tears, and Casey was trying to console her. And I think at that point in time, I thought, does she have the mentality to be able to compete for a spot? Will she actually grow to a level where maybe she won't get into the first team right off, but maybe she can start playing a lot of minutes in Conti Cup matches and so on. And I think in the first half, and I think especially the first 20-25 minutes, I thought she showed that. I thought she was trying to get past players. She's always been a physical player. She's always flying into tackles and all of that. But I think that part of the game, so on the whole of it, she might not have come across a really good, outstanding player. But I think compared to what she was last season, I think it's that bit of her which has improved quite a bit. Uh, I think in terms, I think Maria Thor's daughter as well, right? I was one of those people who weren't that excited about her, if I'm honest with you. And I thought she did not have a great start to the season, but I think in the last couple of matches, she's been really solid. Uh, and I think one of the people here said that if she was that good, why would Chelsea let her go? But the thing is, they have a settled centre back pairing, and Maria is 28, so they don't really need to develop her into centre back, and that's why Chelsea are actually opting for younger centre backs in terms of Nowen. So that is one of the reasons why she's come here at United, and we needed her experience. We needed her international experience, and I think we're starting to see that. So I think these two things would be my positives in the game.
Sonia, you want to jump in with your mates?
Yeah, I think first positive was watching one of my favorite players, Mannion, being the captain. So I was really happy that she was the captain. And I think Tooney had a great game. Of course, we'll get to it. And I agree to what Namrata said. I remember when Carrie Jones was crying and Casey consoled her. I think it was the FA Cup against Burnley. So yeah, she's developed a lot, and I think, in my opinion, she's like a Tooney 2.0. Of course, it's not right on my part to compare the two players because they are different, but at the same time I see glimpses of Tooney's brilliance in Carrie Jones. So really looking forward to watching Carrie Jones play a lot more, because I think she can play on the left wing, right wing, striker, and attacking midfielder, something of what Antoine Griezmann plays for in the men's football. So let's see what's on the road for Carrie Jones.
And that one on screen.
Yeah, just picking up what's on screen. Obviously, we touched on it earlier. I mean, the other thing that we need to remember, of course, you can play your strongest teams for the Conti Cup to try and get a trophy. You get to the semi-finals, you're going to play Arsenal, City, or Chelsea anyway. So, you obviously, to win it, you're going to have to beat one of the bigger teams. I think, to be honest, we still have to continue to push the league, even if it might feel a bit forlorn against some of these bigger teams. I'm hoping we're going to get a boost in January. I'm really hoping we're going to get a boost in January. Whether or not we are, I don't know, because obviously there was that thing with Casey where she forgot that there was a transfer window in January. It seems it was just something she was like ideologically opposed to use, because I think she only used it once in the few years that she was here, or maybe not even that. I know she definitely wasn't interested in it. I don't know if that was a club thing or a Casey thing, but I think especially with Mark's NWSL knowledge and when that season starts and finishes, and there might be some players available in January, I think we can't ignore that fact. But yeah, I think we've got to focus on the league. But if you're going to push anything, I don't think it's the Conti. I think it's the FA Cup this season, because we're still finishing off last season's FA Cup, because that is a bit more of a one and done tie, and each round, and I think we can beat anyone on our day. And hopefully by the end of the season, we would have had, you can see how many players have developed throughout already. I mean, that Wildy that, I know we're going to talk on it, but that Wildy that Tooney scored, she wasn't a bad player a year ago. She's an even better player now. What's she going to be like next year? She's on an upward trajectory, and a lot of our players are on an upward trajectory as well.
I think it's about time we talk about Fuso. So we got her on the thumbnail. I made that thumbnail before the actual game yesterday, because if she was going to have a good game, we need to start using her in the squad somehow. If she was going to have like a bad game, or if she didn't play at all, then would we be looking at loaning her out, and how would we get her in? So I think it's about time that we talk a little bit about Fuso. And thankfully, I think that she had a good game from the little bits that I saw whilst I was out yesterday. Connor, you was actually at the game. How do you think the fan base, and how do you think Skinner's going to be looking at her after that one performance, Connor?
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually, because as a new fan, I asked people about Fuso and like what's she good at and everything, and every single person said the same thing. I don't know. Everyone said I don't know what she's good at. Like, is she a 10? Is she a winger? Is she a striker? Is she pacey? Is she like, nobody knew? Like, nobody could tell me what she's good at. From what I saw yesterday, considering the pitch, which makes it even harder, I'd say she's lightning fast. You kind of get more of a feel when you're there live to realize how quick some of these players are. She is absolutely rapid. Definitely the quickest player on the pitch from our side yesterday. She's definitely got some trickery up her sleeve. Like I said earlier, that run she went on, she did that 3 or 4 times where she took it past a couple of players. Her and Russo actually linked up very well. They've both kind of got that, and I really like this actually. It's something that we're not getting from Galton and Hansen too much this season. Russo and Fuso yesterday were both picking up the ball and driving people.
There, isn't there?
I know, yeah, there's definitely a can't developing there. But they were both picking the ball up and driving at people, and they've both got the pace and the trickery to get round people. So yeah, I was really, really impressed with Fuso herself. She took her goal well. It's not actually the finish that impressed me; it's her positioning for the goal actually that made that. Obviously, it was a good little bit of play with Russo and into Jones, and that laid it across. But you've got to be in those areas to finish it. And too often this season, from what I've seen from the team, is that we don't create clear-cut chances. We're kind of scoring goals from, I don't know, like difficult situations. We're not scoring goals like that where I want us to score more goals like that where it looks easy, because I don't think we're scoring many like that. So yeah, I was really impressed with her. I hope she gets more chances. Obviously, we don't know how bad her injury is. It didn't look too bad for people that might not have seen it on TV after the coverage had finished. She did walk past us kind of afterwards and walked over. She had a slight limp. It wasn't as bad as it was when she came off the pitch. So fingers crossed it was just a bit of cramp and something down to the pitch, and hopefully not, because obviously when she went down we were all worried because she was holding her knee and we thought, oh god, here we go, she's injured again kind of thing. But yeah, fingers crossed that's not too bad, because I won't be doing that, Vix, don't worry. Fingers crossed she can get a run in the side, because I mean it's not like we've got a wealth of attacking options, is it? So why not give her a chance in Spurs or Everton? Just give her more than 5 minutes. Give her 20-30 minutes in one of these games rather than have it at 5 minutes at the end or something. Was I supposed to carry that on? Have I missed a memo?
No, it's my internet. It's going to be quiet. But yeah, I do want to hear Martha's thoughts on that. So obviously we brought her in last season. Quite excited about what she could potentially bring. We haven't seen much of it last season because of her injuries. Coming this season, she's not going to be first choice, but potentially she could play her way into maybe like some sort of position. I don't know where that would be. But how would you kind of handle Fuso, and what are your thoughts of her career going forward at United?
I think the reason people don't know which position she plays is because we haven't really watched enough of her, at least at United. She played a couple of games for Brazil, and I think she was an 8 or number. She either played on the right wing or she was the right side midfielder. I kind of forgot. Uh, but I think if so that is basically my only reference point to essentially judge her for this match. And I think from those matches she has improved quite a bit. I think she's a very skillful player, tricky feet. But one thing, if you compare her to other players who have the skill set, for example, we had LJ, who I think for me one of the most skillful players in WSL. She doesn't really hog the ball, Ivana. She gets the ball, she tries to get past defenders, and then she's looking to make that pass or get herself into good positions where she can probably take a shot or so on. So this is, I think, a good part of a game. Uh, I just think that based on the number of minutes that she's got and because she's injury prone, I wouldn't mind that if she goes out on loan. Uh, I don't know, this season or maybe a season long loan somewhere in WSL or maybe even another league, maybe the Swedish league or the German league. I'm not really sure. But I just think that she needs to be in a team where she's playing week in, week out, where she finally also understands, okay, what is her best position going forward. Uh, and I just feel that she's not really going to get that chance at United. So I think her contract expires end of next year. She has an option for another year, but so I think before we extend that contract, and I think we should extend that contract anyway, but we should definitely give her a chance to get more minutes into another team. So I think that's how I would kind of handle that.
Just before we move on to the next topic, Connor, just to shout out a few of these comments here about Fuso. So, John, I've been raving about Fuso for quite a while, like a new signing for us, because other teams don't know much about her. I think that's the thing. No one really knows much about her, and she's been here for 18 months and still don't know much about her. But from what we saw yesterday, really positive. Stuart to say Fuso play where Tony plays, yeah. So I suppose that's her opportunity, maybe on the Conti Cup games, FA Cup games, maybe when you're going to rest Tooney, you play Fuso there. But then obviously, where does that leave Stanley Force going forward as well? It's a nice headache to have. And I think this one's probably going to be referring to Fuso as well. Vicky says she should be something different, give her 20 to 30 minutes and see how she goes. And then one last question here from Stuart. To the panel, her appear stronger option, Thomas or Fuso. I think it depends on what kind of player you need. We saw Thomas come on against Leicester because we needed that goal. We needed that poacher, and she was there. Fuso seems a bit more intricate, a bit more like a different type of player, so I think it might depend on the game. We've got about 15, 20 minutes or so left, so Connor, over to you, mate.
Yeah, it's just going to be really depressing, this, isn't it? Because I'm just going to moan about the pitch for 90 seconds. So usually, obviously, at games, we've been to the King Power, we've been to St Andrews, we've been to LSV this season. You're away from the pitch. You can't really have a feel about it. And to be fair, the pitch quality has been good. St Andrews, maybe not so much, but the pitch quality has been good. Now, what I saw yesterday, felt yesterday, because me and Andy were literally on the pitch because of how close you are to the touchline. I mean, to the point where the players had a bit of a shock, to be fair, when they came over and oh my god, they're there. That they were that close. But so we were literally on the pitch. And the one, like I said this earlier, I'm amazed that we didn't come away with any major injuries, to be honest, because that pitch to me is dangerous at higher level because of the pace of the game. And as soon as I saw Toon and Galton come on, I think I said to Karen at the time, I was, oh no. Like I almost wouldn't have risked it. Obviously, I know Toon obviously got us that goal and helped to save the game almost. But at the time, I'm looking at the pitch going, that's a disaster waiting to happen. You see some of obviously the tackles that are going in and things like that. But I don't quite know what the pitch is made of. I think it's full artificial or whatever it was. But you could tell by the way the ball was bouncing. It wasn't bouncing like on grass pitch would do. It was bouncing all over the place. Like sometimes you'd see the players expecting it to come to them, and it would go off to the right or off to the left. It didn't have a consistent bounce. Sometimes it was going high. Sometimes it was dropping really low. It wasn't consistent at all. And you could really see some of the. I saw, and this is the first time I've really seen it after games. Obviously, after a game, you see a lot. The players kind of congregating on the pitch. They have their team huddle, whatever. It's the first time I've ever really seen a lot of players get a lot of treatment after the game. They were all kind of like surrounding each other. Barisa had treatment. I think Toon had it. I can't remember a couple of other players. I think Martha Harriet. They were all kind of getting treatment on their legs after the game. So that signifies to me that was a very kind of tough pitch. I don't know what to call it, a pitch to play on. So I think my question is, obviously, there's been cases in the past in football where teams have got promotion, and it's looking likely that Durham will get promoted from the Championship. But there's been cases in football in the past where teams have not been allowed to be promoted because of the quality of the pitch or stadium. They don't meet certain regulations, so they can't actually go up. Do we think Durham should be allowed to be promoted with a pitch like that, as dangerous as that? In something as strong as the WSL, especially if it's going to grow at the rate that it's growing, more eyes on it, the quality of the game. I personally don't think pitches like that should be allowed in professional football. So I'm interested in Stu's thoughts on it, actually, because I know he's kind of an expert in this this field.
The problem you've got is I don't know whether the WSL pitches come under UEFA or FIFA guidance. I'm guessing they don't. Men's 4G, 5G pitches come under UEFA standard, so it has to be a certain standard of play. And what you won't get is a disparity on the bounce. So we've got a brand new 5G pitch at a local college, which we play on a Monday evening, which is a professional FIFA pass pitch, and it's perfect. It rolls flat. There's grass intertwined in with it, and there's a proper bounce to it, so you can follow the play. It doesn't get stuck. I don't know whether the ball got stuck last night at all, if it didn't roll quite properly, if it didn't roll with any pace. Brand new FIFA pitches, like the one that young boys played on. They're designed to replicate grass, but just a bit steadier. The ball does move a lot quicker, and it can be unpredictable. But the problem you've got is if these pitches in the WSL aren't licensed under UEFA or FIFA, then it may well be that Durham will be able to bring that pitch along, back up to the new to the WSL. The problem that you've got with WSL, and when you look at Manchester United alone, we don't play at Old Trafford, do we? We play at LSV, and teams don't play at their national, their parent stadiums. They play dotted around, and Durham will have that issue. And there probably isn't the finances to upgrade the pitch. Now, I'm not saying it's right by any stretch of the imagination, and players have got to adapt. I would guess that if the girls are training at Carrington and they would have used the artificial pitch at Carrington, it would have been a higher grade 4G or a higher grade 5G pitch they were using, rather than what they were going to play on. So not ideal. They tend to be hard on your ankles, your Achilles, and it can be hard on your calves as well. And the other thing about a poor pitch is if you do go down, it can give you quite a nasty burn. So they're not ideal if they're poor pitches. The other thing is, I don't know the Durham Stadium, whether it gets hired out to local 5 and 6-a-side competitions like a golf.
It's a university. It was the university.
It's Durham University's campus.
Ah, there you go then. There you go then. So it won't be a 5G pitch, I'm guessing. But that's my experiences with those types. So
I'm just laughing at Vicky's comment there because it's right. It was actually.
I've seen it. But yeah, tricky one, Connor, to ask. But I'm guessing with the WSL, there won't be a mandate to say you can't have this or you can't have that.
Yeah, I mean, I can help you on that a little bit because I do know a bit. Yeah, I think there is a ban on artificial pitches because I believe Liverpool used to play at Widnes Vikings ground back in the day. And that's another terrible artificial pitch that they got forced to move from. Same with Everton, I think. They used to ground share it. So I don't know if that's just an artificial pitch reason. I know when the WSL first started, the criteria to go up was the ability to pay players a salary full time being, I think, 16 or more contact hours per week in the game. Now, whether or not be profitable, well, I think there's a bit of creative accountancy that goes on there with some of the bigger men's clubs. And obviously, remember, Durham is an unattached club. There's no men's backing to it.
Right.
They have a link with Durham University in relation, and why they'll be using their pitch. And I believe that they have either an informal or formal arrangement for rehab and medical, because Durham trained physiotherapists, so they use their department as a sort of auxiliary. So they have a very strong medical team, stronger than you would expect, and they have to have an academy, a established academy, to show that they can bring people up. Now, whether or not the FA can suddenly look at blind eyes when they actually get up, because it'd be a bit embarrassing with Sky when it's like, right, who's coming up next season? Well, actually, they can't come up. I think they probably find a way. There was a bit of chat on last night that was a bit annoying, because some people like saying, oh, all the pitches around here are apparently artificial because of the weather. Well, I don't know if anyone's been to Manchester. We don't exactly live in the top del Sol, right? If we can actually keep blended pitches or grass pitches together, I'm sure Pretty Little Durham can find somewhere where they can put a field together. So I'm not buying that for 1 second. It is one of those where, it's like the whole place is like pizza and ice cream. I like pizza, I like ice cream. I don't want them together on the same thing. I like NFL, but that was an NFL pitch, basically. That was NFL turf, essentially, compared to what it should have been. And, we touched briefly on Russo going down. A foot got caught in the pitch. And the interesting thing that Connor was, I think, going to allude to was when we stood back from the pitch, we actually had an indentation of where we were standing. So it was really poor. So I think they're going to have an issue, because I think they'll probably fall down the academy or the ability to pay players, apart from the issue with the stadium. But the championship is very tight. So it's possible that maybe Liverpool could nick it, or even Sheffield at the end of the season. But it is an awkward one.
It is something I think we need to address as we go into the season. If Durham looks like they are going to be promoted, I'm sure conversations are going to be had, and I'm sure conversations are being had behind the scenes, and probably being had for 2 or 3 seasons now. If Durham do get promoted on points, and obviously they need to know where to stand before going into that season. Surely they would know that already, but it is definitely an interesting topic. We've got 2 more topics to talk about. Atano, talk to a bit of Ellerton.
She's on fire. Her chance actually apt for her performances. She's been amazing this season. Like she's 22 to 21 years old, and at this age she's coming off the bench, making an impact against Durham. And it's not just Durham. We saw against Reading as well 2 assists. We saw against Leicester a beautiful goal from outside the box, which coincided with the Bruno Fernandes goal, which was a good coincidence. And then we saw another good performance in the Manchester derby, where she assisted, Lucy Stanford. So she's got in 5 games she's got 2 goals and 4 assists in the WSL. I don't know if we'll count the penalty shootout goal, but if we do, then she's got 4 goals in 6 appearances all over the competition. So amazing season. I think she is getting that recognition finally. She in the England setup as well. She's starting regularly under the new manager. So I think, I can just sing the chant and you guys will be like, okay, that's the end of the topic. Like that.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you dropped yourself in it there. I thought, I thought you were going to do it.
So on your own channel, I think you need to do that, and we'll all tune in and do it on that one. If I could just say something a little bit about Toonie, and I have said it like a few different times over the past 13 months we've been doing this show. What I like the most about Toonie's progression so far is that it's very natural, it's very gradual. So in that first season, she done really well in the Championship, but I appreciate it was at a different level. Then she comes up into the WSL. She wasn't first choice. Hayley Ladd, Jackie, and Zellum was always the first choice. That was always the midfield 3, and this is what a lot of fans didn't like, because we knew the exact starting lineup that Katie Stoney had, but that was our strongest 3 at the time. But then when our first substitution was always Toonie to come on, and she did well. She obviously got her head down, got used to the league, got used to everything. Because in that third season, last season, she did force her way into that team, which was a fantastic achievement in itself, to either knock out the captain or knock out Jackie, or Laddle, which kind of kept her place until the very end. So all of a sudden, she's fought into that start 11 in the WSL. And then this season, she's arguably player of the season so far for us. I think a lot of people would probably put her up there. And she's just going from strength to strength, obviously going into Lionesses now. Not only is she in the squad, potentially she's being looked at like for the starting 11 as well. So even when she's playing as a false nine, where no one wants a false nine, but when you've got no Russo and no Martha Thomas, I get it. Skinner's chose to put her in a false nine role as opposed to play a Fuso or a Carrie Jones, which is understandable. I get that. So even when she's kind of playing out of position, she's still scoring goals and she's still assisting. And I'm really glad that this is a topic that Tanu's brought up, and I'm sure we'll rave about Tooney more down the line, because I think that's what our fans do with Tooney. We've seen her grow, and she's just going to carry on growing. Connor, you said she was world class in your fan cam. If they're not world class yet, she's certainly on the trajectory to be world class. Connor, let me bring you in first then on Tooney.
Yeah, she's the best player in our squad. It's not even. I don't think it's even close either. I think it shows in the last, especially yesterday. She came on, and like the quality is not even the same. And I know how people feel about other players in the squad, maybe like Galton or Russo, whoever. Toon to me is another level above these, because she came on and completely changed the game, and everyone raised to her standards, not the other way around. Like I said in my fan cam earlier, we were kind of playing maybe like in gear 2 or 3. And then Toon came on and we went to like 5 and 6. It just completely changed. Her movement off the ball, I don't think people really pick up on. It's ridiculous. She is, and I know people don't like the comparisons, but she is the Fernandez of like the Bruno Fernandes of this team, because it's her work rate off the ball. We see what Fernandes does in the men's. He runs bloody everywhere. He's back in defence. He plays at right back. He's up front. And that's what Ella Toon does. She's constantly helping back in defence. She's then bombing forward, trying to make runs in behind. Her passing is brilliant. She's got a very good striker. And I said in my fan cam earlier, when she picks the ball up on the edge of the box, when it's other players, I'm like, oh, don't shoot, because you just can see them snatching at it. When Toon gets the ball, you just hit it from anywhere, because it's either going to be a shot on target, or it's going to test the keeper, or it's going in. So you cannot drop it. And I think she's going to be one of these players similar to Fernandez as well, that just wants to play every game. I think you saw that yesterday. Obviously Skinner took the risk, brought her on. She'll probably play every game for the Lionesses, and then she'll play every game for us after the internationals as well. I think she's that kind of player. She just wants to play all the time. But also, the one thing I really love about it, she's got that bit of, I don't know the right way of saying it, but like aggression as well. Like we saw it in the City game. She was the one like going up to the kind of officials, really fighting for things. She backs up her teammates in arguments and things like that. With the Galton challenge in the Manchester derby that Stanway got, she was the first one going over. I really love that about her. The fact she's so like passionate for the team, but also very, very good. So I obviously said earlier that she's world class, and I think if she's not there yet, if people don't think she's there, she definitely will be. She's another level above what we've got in this squad, I think.
Two things on that very quickly before I bring them Marta in. And I think that comment there about when you said about City, the way that she was going to the referee and challenging Stanway, I think that comes from confidence as well. And I think she's just gradually growing in confidence, and she's probably seeing herself as one of the, I wouldn't say senior figureheads just yet, but definitely someone who's gaining confidence and going from strength to strength. And that comment on screen, absolutely. I can't imagine Tooney going anywhere. I think it would be a massive kick in the teeth more than LJ, more than anybody else. I don't know if I spoke about this on the podcast or to maybe Natalie privately, but I think if Tooney decides to go, I think it was Natalie, I remember having this discussion. I think if ever Tooney decides to go elsewhere, then I think we've got a problem somewhere inside the club. That's the way I'm looking at it, because if there's one player that shouldn't leave on their own accord, it would be Tooney. Now, Marta, we've kind of give our points on Tooney, but what are your thoughts?
I think one thing about Tooney, and I wrote about this on Twitter as well. So I started watching United in our first season in WSL when so her friends and her peers from her Manchester City days were Georgia Stanway and Ellie Roebuck and Lauren Hemp, and during that time these people were just flying, right? I think they were regulars in Lioness's squad, and they were really good players for Man City, and everyone was praising them. And at the same time, Ella was sitting on our bench. She went out, scored 5 against Leicester, did not get a chance to come back for the team. So at that point in time, I was a bit concerned that, what if she doesn't recover from this? What if she compares herself to people who are at her age and the players that she knows who are at her age? and then she gets disheartened and she doesn't really improve. But I think the fact that right now she's come back, she's the face of Manchester United. She is playing every match for Lionesses. I think one thing that is really, which for me is the best thing about Ella, is the mentality. If you can go from basically being a bench player throughout the season and really establishing yourself as the best player in your team by the age of 22, and I think so many of us are talking about her being a future captain. I think it just shows that she's grown as a player, but the mentality that she has, that is exactly what we're looking from all of our players actually in the team. So I think she's been really well. She's been playing really well, and I think she's actually improved from last season. Uh, I didn't think that it was going to be possible. I think she might hit her ceiling and then things would be a bit stagnant. But I think she's been really, really good player for us this season.
And did you want to give your thoughts on Tooney before we move on to Stuart's point?
Yeah, I mean, with Tooney, the thing about Tooney is I've been watching since the first season, like a few people, and I couldn't have seen where she now is. And I suppose this is me holding on to it as a fan. Maybe she's just the first one across the line in relation to development from potential to world class. And actually, maybe a lot of them are ready. Will get there eventually. Like Fuso possibly looks like a beginning of a Lauren James. Maybe we have got a few players that, if we want to believe in the process, actually will get there. I know obviously it's not linear and injuries and personal decisions and that kind of thing. But I mean, we've discussed about her goal scoring. We've discussed about the way she's grown as a person. You look at the way she gets interviewed, the way she stands, her posture. She's not scared to death anymore. She's like, I think sometimes she looks bored with some of the paper journo interviews. She's got a proper composure. She's growing as a person. She's getting a bit older. And again, as I always say about Tooney, technically she could still play for the Devs. She's very young, and we should be very excited as United fans. But I think the main point I would say is she the first of many? Is in relation to the potential. So I suppose, could we believe in this mystical 5-year process that apparently we have, this 5-year plan?
Awesome. It's I think there is definitely a plan there. Me and Natalie was talking yesterday, and we were basically saying that we're sure that they do plan 2-3 years ahead, based on players who are going in and out of contract or the types of player. But you also have to remember is a lot of things can happen in 2 or 3 years. Casey's plan was halfway through Casey's plan, and all of a sudden she's gone. So I just wanted to add that in. It's great having that long-term plan, but there will be a lot of obstacles and a lot of changes to get to that stage, won't there? Stuart, I'm dying to hear your topic. Let's hear it.
Yeah, I just again, this is an observation that I made mainly from the City game. I had a few thoughts from Reading and Chelsea, but mainly from the City game, really. And it's all about system. Now, Connor will tell you I don't rave about systems at all. I'm not a FIFA 22 guy who chooses a 4-2-6-8 or whatever. I'm not interested in that, because ultimately what happens in football is you start off set up, and during the game, your system goes all over the place. So really, when you do play a system, it's all about how you defend. So when you do go into a system, it's when you're at the back. And I wanted to talk about, and Connor will laugh at this, he will smirk, player intelligence and player application, because it's a huge thing when you're on that pitch. I told you that it's a huge thing. And I'm not picking on anyone particularly, but I wanted to focus on Hannah Blundell in the first half, because Lauren Hemp and Demi Stokes absolutely destroyed her. And what bothered me the most was she must have identified this within the first 5 minutes of what was happening. And the coaching team, Skinner, the captain, the central defenders, everybody must have identified exactly what was happening down the left-hand side, because Hemp got in 6 times, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously they got their first goal from Lauren Hemp destroying Hannah Blundell. Now, she played the system correctly. So whatever she was told to do in terms of her position on the pitch, she was getting that from the coaches. So when the play was switched to the left, the right going down, the left as I was in the stand, Blundell moved across and she was parallel with the 6-yard box, which is correct. But Hemp was 20 yards behind her, if you could all remember. And so all it took was a quick switch across and Hemp was in. So every time Hemp was got the ball, Blundell was a good 10 or 15 yards away from it. And what I couldn't quite get my head around at the beginning is Hemp is rapid in a foot race. And there's no way Blundell was ever going to catch her in a one-on-one foot race. So sometimes, what I wanted to say is sometimes when you're playing to your system, you have to go rogue. You have to say, look, I've got problems here. I need to be 10 yards further over to the right or 10 yards closer to who I need to be. Because if she'd faced Hemp up, okay, on 2 or 3 occasions, she'd have made Hemp think a bit more than just getting the ball, getting her head down and absolutely running. Now, when you look at the second half compared to the first half, she got control of Hemp. Now, clearly, there was some kind of instruction at half time. Why it wasn't put across and why she didn't identify this in the first half, I've got absolutely no idea. And I was quite disturbed about that. But in the second half, I think Hemp got in twice. That's about it. So she got to grips with her. But she needs to, and I don't know enough about Hannah. I guess she's a young player who's maybe broken into the team over the last couple of years. But she needs to think a little bit more early doors and start being more reactive rather than waiting for somebody to tell her what to do. But it was a big observation. It was a massive problem for us in the first half.
I kind of agree, actually. I agree on Hannah in terms of intent, because I said this yesterday to Andy and Karen and Vic, who were around me at the time. If you have a look at City's goal, City's second goal, it comes from Hannah diving in and leaving a gap behind her. Durham's goal yesterday, the free kick, the corner that they won, came from Hannah diving in, leaving a massive space behind her. She did that a couple of times against Leicester as well. And the system that Skinner wants, and I know Stu isn't a fan of system. It's very. I had this. Someone tweeted me yesterday saying, "I bet you can't even tell me what Skinner's system he's trying to do is." It's very clear what system he wants to do. 2 fullbacks are so high. The 2 Galton and Hansen, whoever it is, 2 inside forwards, and he wants the width to come from the fullbacks. It's very. Yeah. You can see it whatever game you watch. It's very simple. The problem we've got is we don't have as we said earlier, we don't have a lad or somebody who's going to drop between the 2 centre-backs to make a back 3. So the 2 full-backs get exposed a little bit more in these bigger games like Chelsea and City because they're so high and wide. Their recovery pace isn't always the quickest, especially when you're playing someone like him to get back. And then you're almost, like I said earlier with Hannah, she's diving in then. Just, oh, God, there's a player there. Let's dive in for that. Goes through it. And then there's a massive 20, 30-yard gap behind her that players can exploit. And I think it's fine playing this system when you've got 2 high fullbacks. That's perfectly fine, but you need somebody in the middle. You need a 6 that's going to drop between the 2 centre-backs. And Maria and Manu can just shift 5 yards to the right and left just to cover the width a little bit. Because if you got your fullback, Honor does it a little bit, just not as much. If you got your fullbacks that high diving in, you'll just, like I said, it's 20, 30 yards of space. And that's why I think against City, we didn't look like we had a player advantage because we didn't have that space. Whereas whenever City got the ball, you're like, look at how much space they got here because we dive in a little bit. And I've noticed that a lot of the time. So that I actually like the system Skinner's playing, but we need somebody like Ladd to drop between the 2 centre-backs if that's what he wants to do.
I like the system he plays, but you're absolutely right, Connor. And in the second half, we did drop those 10 yards that we needed to, because when you've got somebody like Hemp or and she really surprised me, actually. I know people were raving about her, but I didn't know how good she was. I quite liked her because you're playing against somebody with a low centre of gravity, very, very quick. If you notice, the ball is only 2 yards away from her feet at any one time, or a big toe at any one time. She controls it quick. She can turn it quickly. And what tends to happen is, if you're diving in, as Connor says, or you're too close to it, she'll turn you inside out. She'll do a figure of 8 on you. So you've got to give yourself that time. And sometimes you've really got to show her away. Don't show her inside. I know she's a left footer and she's got a left-footed cross, but it's less dangerous. Or less danger, should I say? Less dangerous. Bad English. Less danger if you're crossing in from the corner flag type, as you are when you're crossing in from the edge of the 18 yards area. And that's what Hannah's got to bring to a game. She's got to know who she's playing against, and she's got to adjust a lot quicker. Humble opinion, but that's what I've noticed. Andy, I'll be interested in your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because one of the things that we noticed as well was that I think we did switch it a bit quicker last night against Durham. I know Durham's no city, so maybe there was a bit of that, and it's possible with the only thing that I noticed against City was that maybe we just took it a bit to the nth degree. There was such a gap, that we clearly weren't pressing. So it might just be a little bit of, next time we play a big team, we can obviously do. We can do that, but cut it a little bit further because you haven't found where the line is yet.
So you're right there, because when you play a wing back position, your wing back should be floating between 18-yard box to 18-yard box. So if you do get caught out of possession, you've got less space to get back to, rather than go a bit deeper, which we tried to do in the first half, but didn't do so much in the second half. So yeah, I 100% agree with you.
Obviously, I appreciate we've gone over again, which is great because I think that's what's natural about the show. But I just want to, I know John's a modest guy, but I just want to mention, obviously, as you say, we're going to talk about. I think you guys are going to talk about it tomorrow. But we got bronze in the Football Content Awards last night, and it was well deserved. And obviously, I'm just a contributor. I'm just lucky that John's happy for my bad jokes and strange views to come on occasionally on Friday Forum and the other shows as well. But I mean, specifically, obviously, just everyone that's involved with All for United. John, obviously, Craney, Gareth, Ben, Connor, yourselves. I think what John's got a spreadsheet. I'm going to give the little bit of secret away. He's got a little spreadsheet about who was on the shows and when. And he told me once that I came on the 31st of May, was my first show, and it's been brilliant. And I just want to say, thank you not only for what we're building, and we're not finished. John will be the first one to tell you that you ain't seen nothing yet. And we've actually have generated a proper community on and off screen. And we don't just tell everybody's Twitter because we're pretending on Sky Sports. We tell everybody where to find you at the end of the match, because if you want to talk, we'll talk to you. And we've generated a great group of match-going fans. We've generated a great group of international fans, obviously with Nemrata and Atanu, and I'm sure others as well. And I think you guys should be very proud of what you've achieved also already. At least with it being bronze, we've got silver and gold to go. And I think, to be honest, being part of All for United has been one of the most wonderful surprises that came about in relation to building my own confidence and my own knowledge of the game. And it's a great group of people. And to be honest, I'm excited to see where it goes next. And I just wanted to give you some well-deserved praise, because you really deserve it.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to quickly echo because I'm not going to be around tomorrow, I don't think. Just very quickly, I've mentioned this on Bridging the Gap the other day. So my first voice message to John, never spoke to John before in my life, voice messaged him, how easy is it to get to one women's game? I said, I'd go to one game this season. I've now been to 6, I think. Durham away, 12-hour round trip driving. And that is because of what John, Nat, Benny, Matt, Gareth, all these, Anthony, and everyone on this panel have created the community. And I said this earlier, it's not just about Man United women, I don't think, anymore. The fact that what they're doing, growing women's football, I see, John, already. You've got people like Stourbridge women, on next week as well. We're going on Sunday to watch Stourbridge versus Tamworth. What you're doing for the women's game is brilliant, and I just can't speak highly enough of it. And like Andy said there, bronze is good. Next year, going for gold. And as Mark Skinner would say, we've got some great synergy, and the process is building. So we're going to be going for that.
And energy, we've got the energy.
Energy.
No, thank you very much for that, guys. I really appreciate it. And just to echo just what you both just said there, not about me, but about the fact that we have got our
go on.
No. The All for United WFC doesn't end when we click end broadcast up there. It is 24/7. The amount of messages that we get before and after the show shows that we're doing something right, and it's a type of messages as well. So it's great to see. It is a community. It is going from strength to strength. And kind of regarding the women's side of things, women's football side of things, it's not just Man United, it is supporting local teams as well. And this is something that we're going to look at doing. And we have got a little surprise in store for a lower league player before Christmas, and that will be announced shortly. So we are backing up our words with different things that we've got planned. So which is great to do. So thank you to everybody for tuning in tonight. Andy, Connor, thank you for them kind words. Namrata, Atanu, thank you for staying up so late. We always appreciate it. And Stu, thank you for coming on. I love to hear what you have to say. So it's great to have you back on.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Tomorrow, better match show, usually 7:30. So yeah, tune in at 7:30 on Saturday. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.